Word from our undercover team and their informants is that someone is offering explosives and arms on the black market. It's amazing how fast this scum flows in to fill the gaps. Time for us to move in. And only one warning before you open fire, okay? Let's see how much we can clean up once and for all.
Organized Crime Unit Squad Briefing, CSFHQ, 383 days after Geonosis.
Chapter 14.
Logistics Center, Grand Army of the Republic, Coruscant Command HQ, 1000 hours, 383 days after Geonosis.
Ordo walked through the center's doors unchallenged this time.
"Good morning, sir,"
the sentry droid said. Ordo shoved his stylus probe in the droid's data port again and downloaded its latest recognized personnel file.
"Carry on,"
he said. Before he reached the operations room of the logistics wing, he stepped into the mail fresher and ran the downloaded images of all the center's organic staff through his helmet's HUD to memorize every face. About 5% had changed since his last visit. Civilian staff moved on. Supervisor Winnan, he noted, was still there. Then he copied all the data stored in his helmet to his datapad and wiped the HUD's memory. His armor was completely clean now, with no trace of who or what he was other than a classified ARC Trooper tally ID. His sole connection to the Special Forces world would be the tiny bead comlink in his ear. His final task was to slide a wide-angle strip cam into the ventilation grill that passed between the male freshers and the female ones. Then he replaced his helmet and walked into the operations room. There was no sign of Basani Winnan. The third shift supervisor, Animbanal, was on duty. "Morning, sir," Kor said.
"Just observing today, Trooper,"
Ordo said. He stood back as if watching the array of live traffic holocharts that covered the circular walls of the ops room, making it feel like the inside of an illuminated drum. In fact, his gaze was on Kor as he worked and occasionally moved around the room. Ordo was taking a crash course in how the trooper moved so that he could mimic him. He already had the measure of his voice with its faint, flash-learned accent. And the civilians always seemed to think he was looking in the direction that his helmet was facing. The basic trooper helmet specification was available to anyone working in logistics, but they seemed to be unaware of its visual range. Who cared what a trooper could and couldn't see? They ignore so much data, these civilians, Ordo thought to himself.
"Cool. I need you to show me something,"
Ordo said. The civilians also seemed to ignore conversations between clones.
"Come with me."
Kor picked up his helmet, put the security code lock on his workstation with his tally gauntlet. Good man, follows the regulations, Ordo thought to himself, and followed Ordo out of the room. They walked back down the corridor, and Ordo gestured him into the freshers, marching him into the far end where the lockers were.
"This is where you have to follow my orders to the letter,"
Ordo said. Kor looked suddenly wary. Yes, sir?
"Armor off. We're swapping suits."
Sir?
"Remove your armor. I need it."
Kor began unfastening the gription panels without argument and stacked the plates on the floor. Ordo did the same. They both stood there in black bodysuits, suddenly without visible rank, and Ordo was reminded the price Kor had paid. He looked at the trooper's artificial hands. Was it very painful? Asked Ordo, who had never been that badly injured. Don't remember a thing, sir, but it hurt when I woke up in the Bacta tank. He pushed back his sleeves. He had lost both arms from just above the elbow. I manage okay. Ordo had no idea what to say. You should be invalided out. You shouldn't be going back to the front. But what about my brothers? What am I without them? He had no answer to that either. He snapped Kor's plates onto his own suit. It was a tight fit. He had always known that the experimental genotype that had so disappointed Kamino in quality control had made the gnolls slightly heavier in build than the clone trooper and the clone commando batches. His armor would be a little loose on Kor.
At least you get to play captain then. Enjoy it.
Kor attached the plates and had some trouble snapping the comma into place. Ordo adjusted it and put the pauldron on his shoulders, then handed him the helmet.
Wow, this feels different,
Kor said, looking down at himself. The ARC Trooper armor was built to a higher spec.
It's heavier than I thought. Get those shoulders back a bit farther and let the comma and the holsters hang like that.
Ordo placed the helmet on Kor's head and was suddenly surprised to be staring back at himself. So that was how he looked to the world.
Take this datapad and walk out the front doors. You'll be met by a taxi piloted by a Wookiee. Do not stop and do not talk to anyone. Just walk out as if you were me, and you'll be taken to a place where you'll be among brothers.
Very good, sir. How long?
Ordo tried on Kor's helmet. It felt foreign. It smelled of a stranger, different food, different soap.
I don't know. Just savor the break, and I'll see you later. What do you call the civilians?
I address them by their last name, except for the supervisors, whom I call ma'am or sir.
Even women?
Kor paused.
We use first names when not in the center itself.
Ordo tucked Kor's helmet under his arm.
Good. Off you go.
They left the freshers a few seconds apart, and Ordo watched Kor disappear up the corridor. The weight of the comma and blasters gave him an authentic swagger. Ordo found it quite touching and turned back to the operations room to get used to being a simple meat can, a clone trooper that nobody, except the enemy of course, dreaded or feared or avoided. He had at least one shift to settle in before the biggest risk to his cover turned up. B'Sani Winnin seemed to be the one taking the most interest in Kor. He would have to be careful to get past her scrutiny, but he had a few hours to practice. He unlocked the workstation and became compliant, conscientious CT-5108/8843, invisible to the world. The job of checking that supplies had reached the correct battalion in the field and that contractors' schedules hadn't slipped was a simple one, and he occupied himself thinking of ways to make the system more efficient. He resisted the urge to upgrade the system there and then. And he watched those around him.
I'm sorry I'm late,
said a woman's voice behind him, a level, mellow voice with an undertone of warmth that sounded as if she were permanently smiling, the higher frequencies betraying a shortened vocal track.
I'll work an extra hour for you tomorrow. Thank you for holding the fort.
Ordo had no time to perfect his simple trooper act. He glanced over his shoulder, as he imagined Kor might, and gave B'Sani Winnin a slight nod that felt like it came a little too easily to him. She smiled back. Ordo suspected she too was a consummate actor, but something in him greatly enjoyed that smile.